A poor, single dad. A blind date he almost canceled 3 times. And a woman sitting alone in the corner of a restaurant, crying. But she wasn't just any woman. She was his CEO. The same woman whose name was written in gold letters on the building where he mopped floors and fixed broken lights. The same woman he had secretly admired for 3 years, never once believing she even knew his name. But she knew his name. She knew everything. And when she finally looked into his eyes and spoke, what she said didn't just break his heart. It shattered every wall he'd spent 4 years building. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "I've been in love with you for 2 years, and I never had the courage to say it." But that wasn't even the secret that destroyed him. What she revealed next, about his daughter, about the nightmare he thought no one knew, changed everything he believed about love, sacrifice, and the woman who had been silently saving his life from the very beginning. This is a true story. It happened in a quiet town in Oregon, and by the end of it, you'll never look at love the same way again. Stay with me. He had almost canceled the blind date 3 times. 3 times his finger hovered over the message to his best friend. 3 times he typed the words, "I can't do this." And 3 times he deleted them. His phone buzzed again. It was his best friend calling. "I swear, if you cancel on me one more time, I'm showing up at your door and dragging you there myself. You've been alone for 4 years, brother, 4 years. Your daughter deserves to see her father smile again. And honestly, so do you." His daughter. His 7-year-old little girl. The only reason he still woke up every morning. The only light left in a world that had gone completely dark the night his wife collapsed in their kitchen. His mind flashed back to that terrible night. He rushed into the kitchen. His wife lay motionless on the floor. His scream echoed through the empty house. Sirens wailed in the distance. She was only 30 years old when a brain aneurysm took her without warning. One moment she was laughing, the next she was gone. The paramedics said she didn't suffer, that it was instant, that there was nothing anyone could have done. But those words didn't comfort him. Nothing did. He was 31 years old when he buried his wife. And a part of him, the part that believed in love, in second chances, in happily ever afters, was buried right alongside her. He walked down the narrow hallway of his small apartment and stopped at a bedroom door, slightly open. Inside, his little girl sat on her bed, brushing the hair of a worn-out doll. "Hey, sweetheart," he said softly. She looked up, her eyes bright. "Daddy, are you going somewhere special tonight?" He hesitated. He looked at his daughter, her hopeful eyes, her tiny hands clutching that old doll. I don't know yet, baby." "Your friend said you have a date. What's a date?" He knelt beside her. It's when 2 people meet and talk, get to know each other." "Like you and Mommy did?" Silence. His chest tightened. "Yeah, baby. Like me and Mommy." His daughter looked up at him with innocent eyes. "Then you should go, Daddy. Maybe she'll like butterflies, too." He stared at his daughter. Her innocence, her hope, everything he had lost, still alive in her. And in that moment, he made a decision. He wasn't going on this date for himself. He was going for her, for his little girl, for the child who still believed her father deserved to be happy, even when he had forgotten how. Now, at 35, he worked as a maintenance technician at a marketing firm in the heart of Ashford, Oregon. The pay was modest, the hours were long, but it was enough to keep a roof over their heads, food on the table, and occasionally, just occasionally, enough to buy his daughter the butterfly hair clips she loved so much. He never expected much from life anymore. He certainly didn't expect what was about to happen. The restaurant was the kind of place he had never set foot in. Crystal glasses, linen napkins folded into perfect shapes. waiters gliding between tables like they were performing a silent ballet. He looked down at his shirt, clean but worn at the collar. His shoes, polished but years past their prime. He didn't belong here. He knew it, and he was almost certain his date would know it too. "Good evening, sir. Do you have a reservation?" asked the hostess. Yes. It should be under the name she gave me." The hostess smiled and gestured toward a corner table near a window draped in sheer curtains. And that's when he saw her. A woman sat with her back partially turned, her shoulders trembling ever so slightly. Dark auburn hair fell in loose waves past her shoulders. She wore an elegant navy dress that probably cost more than his entire wardrobe. She looked like she belonged on the cover of a magazine. But what stopped him cold, what made his heart stutter and his feet freeze to the floor, wasn't her beauty. It was the fact that she was crying. Soft, quiet tears rolled down her cheeks. The kind of tears you cry when you think no one is watching. The kind he recognized all too well. The kind that come from a place so deep inside your chest, you're not even sure where they begin. He approached slowly, his voice gentle. "Excuse me, are you the one I'm supposed to meet?" She looked up. Their eyes met. Time seemed to stop. And in that single moment, he felt the ground shift beneath him. Because he knew that face. He knew her. She was the CEO of the very company where he spent his days fixing broken pipes and replacing flickering bulbs. The woman whose name was etched in gold letters on the building entrance. The woman who ran a company worth millions. The woman he had secretly admired from the shadows for 3 long years. She had always smiled at him in the hallways, always asked about his daughter when she passed him in the break room, always treated him like he mattered, even when no one else did. And now, here she was, crying at a candlelit table, waiting for him. She whispered his name, her voice breaking. He stood frozen, unable to move. You knew it was me?" he asked. She took a shaky breath. A tear slipped down her cheek. "I requested you." Silence, heavy, electric, filled with 1,000 unspoken questions. And he sat down across from the most powerful woman he had ever known, with absolutely no idea that his entire life was about to change. "I don't understand," he said, shaking his head slowly in disbelief. "You're a CEO. You could have anyone in the world. Doctors, lawyers, CEOs twice as successful as—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "Why would you want to meet me like this?" She looked down at her trembling hands. She took a breath, the kind of breath you take before you say something that terrifies you. "Because I've been in love with you for 2 years." He stopped breathing. "And I never had the courage to say it." The world around them faded. Nothing existed but these 2 people and the weight of her confession. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. His mind was spinning. 2 years? She had loved him for 2 years? I don't, he stammered. "Let me explain, please," she said, wiping her eyes. "Do you remember 3 years ago, my first week as CEO?" He nodded slowly. "I was terrified. Everyone was watching me, waiting for me to fail. I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't know if I was strong enough. And then, one afternoon, I was walking through the lobby, and I saw you." Her mind drifted back to that day. He was kneeling beside a broken chair in the lobby, tools spread around him. Suddenly, the front doors burst open. His little girl ran inside, pigtails bouncing. "Daddy! Daddy!" she had called out. He looked up.
His face transformed. He dropped everything, opened his arms wide, and caught her as she leapt into them. He lifted her high, spinning her once, then held her close and kissed her forehead. "Hey, Butterfly, I missed you," he had whispered. She watched from across the lobby. Something shifted behind her eyes. "I had never seen a father love a child like that," she told him. "Not in my entire life." She paused, composing herself. "I grew up in foster care. I never knew my parents. I moved from home to home, always feeling like I didn't belong anywhere. I taught myself that love was something other people got to have, not me. But watching you with your daughter that day," her voice broke, "something inside me woke up." She told him everything. How she started noticing him after that day. How she watched the way he worked, never complaining, never cutting corners, never asking for recognition. How she saw him stay late when others left early. How she noticed the small photo he kept in his wallet, a picture of his late wife, and how he kissed it every night before going home. "I wanted to talk to you so many times. I would rehearse what I'd say in my head, but every time I got close, I froze." He asked, "Why?" "Because I was terrified." She laughed softly, a sad, self-deprecating sound. "I was scared you'd think I was just some lonely executive playing games, that you'd feel awkward around me, that you'd request a transfer just to get away from the crazy CEO who couldn't stop staring at you." He shook his head slowly. "But mostly, I was scared you'd never see me as anything more than your boss, just another name on a door, another person who didn't really know you." She looked into his eyes, raw, vulnerable, exposed. "I convinced myself that loving you from a distance was enough, that just being near you, seeing your smile in the hallway, hearing your voice in the break room, that it would be enough." A tear slipped down her cheek. "But it wasn't. It was never enough." But she wasn't finished, and what she said next would break him in ways he never expected. Her voice trembled as she continued. "And then, last month, I found out something that broke me." He leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "What do you mean? What did you find out?" She looked away, as if the words were too painful to say while looking at him. "I found out that you almost lost her." He froze. "Your daughter. You almost lost your daughter."
The color drained from his face. He hadn't told anyone, not his best friend, not his coworkers, not a single soul. 8 months ago, his little girl had developed a sudden high fever that wouldn't break. For 3 days she burned, and on the 4th day, the doctors discovered something that stopped his heart. A rare autoimmune condition, something attacking her little body from the inside. They said she needed immediate treatment, specialized medication, constant monitoring, and they told him the cost. He remembered staring at the hospital bill. His hands shook. The number on the page might as well have been $1 million. It was more money than he had ever seen in his life, more than he could make in years. He sold his car. He took out loans. He worked double shifts, sometimes triple. He stopped eating full meals so his daughter could have everything she needed. He stopped sleeping more than 3 hours a night, and he told no one, because he had spent his whole life being invisible, and asking for help felt like admitting defeat. And then, one morning, the hospital called. "Sir, I'm calling to inform you that your outstanding balance has been paid in full." He was stunned. His voice shook. "What? That's impossible. Who paid it?" "The donor wished to remain anonymous, sir. We are not at liberty to disclose any further information." He hung up the phone. He walked to his daughter's room. She was asleep, her small chest rising and falling peacefully. He sat beside her bed, took her hand, and finally, let himself cry. He never found out who saved them.
He spent weeks wondering, hoping that somehow, someday he could thank the stranger who gave his daughter back to him. Until now. He stared at her across the table. His chest was tight. His eyes were wet. "It was you," he whispered. Her tears fell freely now. She didn't try to hide them. "I couldn't watch you suffer." She reached across the table, but stopped just short of touching his hand. "I heard through someone in HR that you were working extra shifts, that something was wrong, and I started asking questions, carefully, quietly."
When I found out about your daughter, when I learned what you were going through, her voice broke completely. I couldn't do nothing. I couldn't just stand by and watch you lose the only person who kept you alive. I had the means to help, so I helped. And I never said anything because—" she took a shaky breath. "Because I didn't want you to feel like you owed me anything. I didn't want you to think I was trying to buy your affection. That's not why I did it." "Then why?" he asked. She looked at him, fully, completely, for the first time all evening. "Because I couldn't imagine a world where that little girl didn't have her father." She paused. "And I couldn't imagine a world where you didn't have her." His shoulders shook. He pressed his mouth to try and hold himself together. And in that moment he understood something he had never allowed himself to believe. He wasn't invisible. He had never been invisible. Not to her. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The candle flickered, the jazz played softly, and he tried to find the words, any words, to describe what he was feeling. But how do you thank someone for saving your child's life? How do you respond when the woman you thought was untouchable confesses that she's loved you in silence for years? He reached across the table. This time he took her hand. She looked up, surprised, hopeful, afraid. "You didn't just save my daughter," he said, his voice cracking. "You saved me. I was drowning. Every single day I was going under, and I didn't even know someone was holding me above water." He squeezed her hand. "I'm not a rich man. I can't take you to places like this every week. I can't buy you the things you probably deserve. I can't offer you the kind of life someone like you should have." She tried to interrupt, but he stopped her. "Let me finish, please." She nodded, tears still falling. "I can't give you diamonds or fancy vacations or a penthouse in the city, but I can give you something." "What?" she asked. "A promise." He looked into her eyes, fully, completely, with nothing held back. "If you give me a chance, I will spend every single day making sure you never cry alone again." Her breath caught. Her tears fell faster, but now, for the first time all night, she was smiling. And for the first time in 4 years, he felt something he thought he had lost forever. Hope. They stayed until the restaurant closed. They talked about his daughter, her butterfly obsession, her toothless grin, the way she insisted on reading the same bedtime story every single night. They talked about his late wife. He shared memories he hadn't spoken aloud in years. How she laughed, how she danced in the kitchen, how she believed in him even when he didn't believe in himself. And she listened, really listened, like every word he said mattered. "Can I tell you something?" she asked. "Anything. You're not the only one who's broken." She looked down at her hands. "I told you I grew up in foster care. What I didn't tell you is how hard I fought to get where I am. I worked 3 jobs to put myself through college. I slept on friends' couches. I ate 1 meal a day for years. And when I finally built this company, when I finally became someone, I realized I had no one to share it with." Her voice dropped. "I have everything, and yet I have nothing." He squeezed her hand again. Maybe that's why we found each other. What do you mean? She asked. Maybe two broken pieces were always meant to fit together. She smiled, soft, trembling, beautiful. When they finally stepped outside, the night air was cool and quiet. The stars above Ashford, Oregon blinked softly, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. She stopped beside her car and turned to face him. I've waited a long time to tell you all of this, she said. She stepped closer. And I don't want to wait anymore. She looked into his eyes. You are the kindest man I've ever known. You work harder than anyone I've met. You love deeper than anyone I've seen. And you have carried more weight on your shoulders than most people could even imagine. Her voice softened. I don't care what the world thinks. I don't care about job titles or bank accounts or what anyone at that company might say. I only care about you. He stepped closer. He gently cupped her face in his hands, wiping a tear from her cheek with his thumb. Then let's stop waiting, he whispered. They stood there, two people who'd been alone for far too long, finally finding their way home. And beneath the stars of Ashford, Oregon, two hearts that had been shattered by life slowly began to heal. 6 months passed, and everything changed. He still worked at the same company, but now, instead of feeling invisible, he walked through those halls knowing exactly who was waiting for him at the end of each day. She still ran her company with grace and strength, but now she had a reason to leave the office before midnight, a reason to smile on Monday mornings, a reason to believe that life was about more than just success. And his daughter? His little girl had never been happier. At a small gathering in the apartment, his daughter ran toward the woman who had changed their lives, something clutched in her tiny hands. I have something for you, the little girl exclaimed. The woman knelt down, her face glowing. What is it, sweetheart? The child opened her hands. Inside was her favorite butterfly hair clip, the one with the purple wings that her father had bought her 2 birthdays ago. This is my favorite one. Daddy bought it for me, but I want you to have it. The woman's eyes filled with tears. Oh, sweetheart, I can't take your favorite. Daddy told me you're an angel, and angels should have butterflies. The woman pressed her heart to her hand. She pulled the child into a tight embrace, tears streaming down her cheeks. No, sweetheart, she whispered. Your daddy is the angel. He just didn't know it. From the doorway, he watched. His eyes were glistening. His heart was full. He had spent 4 years believing that love had abandoned him, that happiness was something he used to have, not something he would ever find again. But standing in that doorway, watching the 2 people he loved most in the world hold each other, he finally understood. Love hadn't abandoned him. It had been waiting, patient, quiet, steadfast, waiting for him to be ready to see it. The 3 of them sat together on the couch, father, daughter, and the woman who had saved them both, laughing at something on the television. A butterfly hair clip sparkled in her hair. Sometimes the person who saves us isn't the one who makes the grandest gesture. It's the one who notices us when we feel invisible, who loves us when we've forgotten how to love ourselves, and who waits without asking for anything in return until we're finally ready to see them. He thought he was just a maintenance man, but to her, he was everything. And to his daughter, they were both exactly what she had wished for. A family, complete, whole, home. If this story touched your heart, I would love to hear from you. Leave a comment telling me which moment hit you the hardest. Subscribe to Soul Tales for more stories that remind us what it means to be human. And tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love seeing how far our stories reach. And remember, you are never too broken to be loved. I'll see you in the next one.